Hey everyone, my name is Renee and I'm the co-founder of Get MotiVETed. I have been in the veterinary profession for over 20 years as a veterinary assistant mainly and team leader, but I have worked in every area of a general practice. So I started out in kennels, moved through the different areas, including boarding and reception and the treatment surgery area, as well as like in the rooms with the patients and things of that nature. So it's been a wild ride. I'm very happy that my career has brought me here. I realize that not everyone gets to have the longevity in vet med that they would like to have. And so I'm very grateful for that. In the early 2000s, I was in the profession for a few years, and this is when I struggled most greatly with my mental health and my physical health. In my early 20s, I was diagnosed with anxiety, depression, chronic back pain, insomnia. I had a number of secondary flare-ups that would happen, including GI issues, suicidal ideation, other fun flare-ups that when I was particularly stressed would come and go. I spent a lot of time in and out of specialists' offices, and I was on a number of pharmaceutical medications. I think, if I remember correctly, about 7 pharmaceutical medications, not including the over-the-counter medications that I was taking to manage other symptoms that would come up or even side effects of the medications. And there became a point in time where I recognized I had this, what felt like a plethora of conditions that were only getting worse, that were not the treatments that I was partaking in, that I thought I was doing everything that I was supposed to be doing. I was a good, type A'er, and I realized that those treatments and the modality, like the method that we were taking to approach this, between the medications and the treatments, it was not effective. I was not getting the results that I wanted or a significant enough impact into who I thought that I was developing into to warrant my entire life looking like how it looked and feeling like how it felt. And that was more important to me. I think on the outside, things looked okay. It was for me, right? What I was seeing, what I was feeling. And there came a point in time where it was like, here, another condition, and I said, enough is enough. I'm not doing this. It was difficult to be able to see the end. It was difficult to be able to see what things could look like, but I just knew that for all intents and purposes, I had my entire life in front of me, even though it was hard to see it. And enough was enough. And so I made a choice. We're talking dawn of internet. So I had to set out, when I made that choice to prioritize my mental health and well-being, I had to set out and do a lot of my own research. As a college student, a full-time college student and a full-time veterinary professional, I sort of rooted into the sciences, because that's what I knew. I knew how to research and study, and I knew how to apply things, and I knew that I was capable of learning. And I knew that other people existed who were successful, however you choose to define that. And I do think that people need to define what success looks like for them. And I knew that I was capable enough to make a difference, and at the very least try. And it was through contrast that I made the first step. So not by really identifying, like I said, everything that I wanted in my life or wanted who I wanted to be, but instead by the opposite of what I was feeling. So not anxious, not depressed, not, spending nights crying to John Mayer on, my 5-disc CD changer on a repeat. If you guys are watching this and you don't know what a 5-disc CD changer is, let's just call it like an Apple playlist. So it was happy. So that was the closest thing in my vocabulary that I could define to be the alternate to my current experience. And so it's like a dartboard that as I aimed for that, I encountered other things, and then eventually the deeper and full range of things that were beyond happy. But luckily, through my research, I did find tools, systems, techniques, strategies, modalities, methods in which people operated in that led to success, that led to being ultimately potentially like the happiest people on earth. And so that's where it started. I was able to come off of the medications as I added new and better and healthier coping mechanisms that replaced, whether it was the treatments that I was partaking in, the medications, the other side, like recreational use of cigarettes and, my behavior patterns, etc. And I started to put in place these different systems that allowed me to have a sense of well-being, to redefine who I was and how I wanted to integrate into the world, how I wanted to contribute to the world and understand myself in a way that I could advocate for myself. I could advocate to my medical team. I could advocate to my work team. I could aimlessly wander through college and, try and find my path that made sense for me. This is, I think, extremely difficult for people to do, no matter how old they are, because you are disrupting the status quo of what you've been conditioned to learn. And it's just against the grain. And so it was very personal. It was very private. And eventually, over about 5 years, things transformed to a point where I was no longer surviving. I moved into a place where I was thriving. I was still in Detroit, Metro Michigan, and I was putting together these things that made sense to me, but understanding where I was and what resources were available, this was starting to change. So by the time I moved to North Carolina in 2011, I was married, I had bought a house, and once again, we'll say life tested me, and I went through a divorce. But by this time, I had these systems in place. And so my best friend, who I had known at that point for over 10 years, was able to see, who Renee was now and who Renee used to be. And she made a comment that I was handling it with such grace, which I thought was incredible to have that be who I was carrying myself as. And there's, a lot of factors that went into that. It wasn't just me, right, that was, experiencing that, but it tested my methods. And after I got the divorce, I worked at a clinic in North Carolina where I met my now business partner, Dr. Holly. And we recognized that we operated very similar to each other. We recognized at this point in time, 2015, 2016, that there was a conversation about well-being in vet med, and that we were no longer anomalies. So people in vet med, veterinary professionals, were the majority of people who are suffering from psychological distress or anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, or potentially suicide. And when we recognized that we had overcome challenges, our own unique challenges of those things, of burnout, of, you know, the day-to-day challenges that veterinary professionals face, we wanted to share that with people. And so we would work out on our lunch breaks together, and then we would talk about these concepts of how do we get this, you know, into the hands of the people that need it the most. And that is where Get MotiVETed was born. And so we went on to help people one-on-one. We went on to get further training in ourselves as life coaches, as trained speakers, as business people, as entrepreneurs, as to be able to create structured programs that people could go through and get similar results. And some of the results were predictable. We knew certain things would happen, but some of the results, because it's a customized thing, well-being has to be customized. Like, I don't know, you know what's going on in your life. I don't know what's going on in your life, but a byproduct of it might be that you come into a talk of ours or a presentation or a program and you're expecting this result, right? To not maybe be burnt out or something like that. But what ends up happening, this byproduct, is that you have a strengthened marriage or a better relationship with your kids. You go on to get a promotion, you make a pivot, like there's so many things that now, yeah, there's pools of people who are getting these results, but even in teams, it's like, as you start to integrate or infuse well-being and put that at the forefront, some things are going to be predictable, other things are not going to be predictable because of how your team has its own essence and how it operates. And so I think that is tremendously inspiring to the veterinary community, because this is what we wanted. And that is why Get MotiVETed exists, because there weren't solutions in place of when people are struggling or before people ever start to struggle. And so by getting systems in place, but then also weaving in the we'll say the art of storytelling to elevate people's stories, to create a space where people can share stories, not just our own, but other people's, it helps inspire, but also equip people to take charge, to take ownership, to not ask permission, to not wait for, you know, the gates to open, but to simply take it for themselves and rewrite their own story, to redefine who they are. And this has been a lot of energy, a lot of resources, a lot of years in the making, but this is who we are. And we continue to utilize the things that we share. We continue to study and grow and learn more. And we do this because it's so important to who we are, but also because we understand the impact that it can make. And we're starting to look at that bigger picture, that vision of what the veterinary industry could look like in 10 or 20 years if collectively we stay on this path. But it has to start with ourselves as individuals first. So that's a little bit about who I am and my story. I have my story integrated into some of the presentations that we have, and you'll learn a little bit more about where I'm at now. I'm so happy to have, as I mentioned, like moved through the divorce, found my person, and started a family. I've been through other really big challenges. We've, collectively, we've all been through the pandemic, but some of these things are bigger than others. Some of these things feel bigger than others, but beyond the challenges, there are the celebrations. There are the things that are going really well. There are the things that, you don't have to quite work so hard at. And there are deeper levels of understandings that I have gained that when I am experiencing the human condition, the highs and the lows, the ebbs and flows, I'm able to have a framework in mind that helps preserve my character. And I hope that through our stories, through our lessons learned, through our, we're not just regurgitating information, but it's through our experience that we've created veterinary specific programs that do drive results that are, number one, effective, that I hope it makes a difference in your life, a positive difference in your life, because I believe in people. I believe in our people. I believe in the veterinary community. And so I understand the impact that can have for animals, right? The first passion, the first love. And I hope that it creates a sense of light. And I hope that it provides hope, but also helps you shine a little bit brighter, because it's going to take many beacons of light in the world, but through our veterinary community, in order to have this big change that we are all ready for. So, but I hope just for you on the, we'll say small scale, but it's going to feel really big, that just for you, that you've got a difference in your life.